So, what is thought exactly? I think this is an important question to contemplate given the immense role that thought has in dictating many of our experiences in life. You know, what we experience is often a function of how we think about reality. Our thoughts sort of predispose what we have a tendency to look at, to attend to, and to prioritize in our reality. We think that the world is this arena of fear and hate and deception, then we will only ever experience those aspects of reality. And conversely, if we have good thoughts about reality, thoughts which, espouse energies of gratitude, of love, of curiosity, of play, of enjoyment, those thoughts will bleed through into your experience and your various feelings that you have about the world. Your thoughts will really help you direct into a more enjoyable, enjoyable and pleasurable engagement with reality. And this is why I think it's very important for us, if we are becoming conscious individuals and conscious of our patterns and wanting to move our experience into a more enjoyable state of mind to being, we need to take a long look at the various thoughts that we have about the world and the various thoughts that we have about ourselves and others. I think significant effort should be attributed to the cultivation of good thoughts, to the eradication of negative and unpleasant thoughts. And I think this is really a practice that takes time. You can't just like that click your fingers and remove all your good thoughts. You have to really engage with a meditative process of repeatedly looking at your thoughts, looking at your habits of thoughts, the things that you have a tendency to think about in particular situations, contexts, times of day when you're feeling this or that thing. You need to really cultivate a practice of being able to step back from your thoughts, to not be a prisoner to them. Because often if we don't question our thoughts, if we don't question the validity of them, particularly negative ones, we will unconsciously allow them to bleed into our experience and to affect our feelings in a negative way. We'll be feeling a certain way, like we'll have certain accumulations of tension in our body and our mind, and we won't understand why. And maybe if you sort of peel back the reasons you're feeling this certain way, there may be a more deeper underlying reason, which is the way that you're thinking about the world. And this sort of leads into the question of like, what is conditioning our thinking? What is conditioning our tendency to have negative thoughts, particularly say about ourselves, where we think we are not enough, that we're insufficient, that we're not worthy of love and affection? And I think there are many different avenues of conditioning from, say, early childhood experiences, say, from the media that you consume, the TV shows, social media posts that you are currently exposed to your sensory modalities. I think you need to really take a look at the various inputs that are going into your mind, the ideas that you're consuming. Because some of these ideas can be nourishing, they can be insightful, they can give you interesting knowledge, on how to understand yourself better, understand how to take care of yourself better. But in this sort of social media world that we have, there's also a lot of inputs that will just reify negative thoughts, that will really bring you down to lower states of being, to the states of fear, anxiety, separation, and this sort of relentless striving. A lot of marketers and advertisers work this way. They will work this way to sort of instill cravings in you so that you will buy some kind of product or service. And, the entire prerogative behind it is to instill a kind of illusory void within you that you need to fill. And as well, on a separate point, political leaders who predicate their existence on maintaining a populace in a state of fear and anxiety, they will naturally predispose to diffuse those sort of ideas into the collective consciousness, such that we create a sort of a population who are remaining in a state of dependency, anxiety, and fear. But that's a separate point from the main point that I'm trying to articulate in this sort of video about the nature of our thoughts and how our thoughts really have a paramount influence on the reality that we experience. I think when we experience the arising of a negative thought, it's important to look at what that is like. What feelings arise within your body? What tension points? Do you feel a bit tense in your chest, in your head? Is it kind of like you're blowing up this sort of balloon of anxiety that doesn't seem to dissipate? It just seems to slowly, sound effects kind of clarifies what I'm trying to mean. I think that sort of relates to our anxious thoughts, when we feel like there's something that needs to be done, but we can't quite put our finger on what it is. So we kind of just exist in this kind of restless state. I think that's an emotional sentiment that sort of relates to myself. I think it may relate to many people who perceive themselves to be participating in some kind of rat race of sorts. This endless pursuit of something, but they can't quite put their finger on what. I think, there are many different ways we can choose to engage with life. We can choose to swim frantically, constantly chasing, or we can perhaps swim with grace and flow, kind of like a Taoist, where we understand that the end goal isn't what it's all about. It's about the journey, man, or something like that. It's about the moment. The moment is all there ever is, really.